You worked your way through almost every entry level role in restaurants before stepping into the kitchen full time. What was the hardest lesson from those early grind years?
Yeah. Man, I have literally worked every position in the restaurant. And yeah, the hardest position are the lessons that I learned. I think just like your demeanor and like building a thick skin is something that is so necessary if you're going to work in a kitchen. Because food is subjective, right? You could think like, oh, this is the best freaking dish I ever had, and Taylor over here might be like, this is the worst dish I've ever tasted in my life, right?
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Get After It. I'm Johnny. I'm here with Joshua Day. He's the owner of Homeboy Goods. He's a private chef located here in St. Augustine, Florida. And we're going to dive into his story, learn about his background and his roots, and what inspired him to become a chef in such a competitive and growing space. So welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me out, John.
Yeah, thanks. So first question I have, for those who don't know you yet, can you give us a quick little intro and then who you are, what Homeboy Goods is all about, and what drives you in your work today?
Okay, yeah. I'm Joshua Day. I've been living in St. Augustine since 2001. I've worked through numerous restaurants out here and kind of playing my roots here back in 2015. But I've traveled throughout the East Coast of the U.S., working in places like New York City and Charleston, South Carolina, kind of honing my skills and really getting a real feel for what food is. But Homeboy Goods is just kind of a my way of giving to expressing my culinary talents to the world. It's really started off mostly just with private chef gigs and doing small, kind of more intimate style dinners. But can lead into other things. I'm eventually looking to do maybe pop-ups eventually and more collaborations with other chefs throughout the town.
Nice. Really cool. You come from a long family line in hospitality. Your grandfather was a dietitian and an ice sculptor. Your grandmother ran a family restaurant. What lessons or traditions from them have shaped how you approach food today?
That's a great question. I would love to say that I got more experience with them. But I think it's something that just kind of runs through the days, to be honest with you. I think it's kind of embedded in my DNA. Like, I'm just coming from both sides, and I can kind of like the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. I can just see through, my mother was always in the kitchen, and that's kind of her love language, if you will. It was always about providing and cooking. And, I just kind of took her idea of I just love bringing people to the table. I think that's kind of the essence of what Homeboy Goods is, just bringing people to the table. There's so much to learn in food through culture and about a family or about a person through food. And I think that's really what kind of sums it up. I think that's been my biggest takeaway from that. It's just seeing how what it does, what being at a table does for people. You know what I mean? Just the conversations, the love, those ideas.
It's better than Zoom meetings for sure.
Yeah. So it tastes better. Yeah. Get a little more real feel. Yeah, there's something really magical about it.
The connections and the relationships you can build. It's definitely something special about being with others and eating a nice meal for sure.
Absolutely. I think you nailed it on that with the word connection. There's a connection when you're breaking bread essentially together. And if with your background in clay, with being Peru, imagine we posted some pictures lately and seeing these dishes that, are
guinea pig and
cuy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Alton.
Yeah, legua, which I love all that stuff. And I think, when I'm originally from Texas, so growing up, I was one of the first kids. This is before taco trucks and food trucks were cool.
Yeah,
I remember I lived in a neighborhood that was just being built, and Texas has a huge mixing influence and culture, and it's so cool because that's it's secondhand to me, just seeing that. But anyhow, long story short, this taco truck would go around the neighborhood, and it was mostly for the construction workers. I mean, I remember seeing them lined up, and I was like, man, like I'd see them bring these burritos out, these tacos, and I'm like, I got to get a hold of that. And I remember being like I was like maybe 12, and I'm like in this line of like the only like gringo in this line. And we'd get these like tacos, and like the first time I ever had like a burritos, and I'm like, this is rad. They're like,
You guys is fire.
yeah, I'm like, why isn't a line out the door with more people here? But that was the first time I had like lengua or barbacoa, like cheek, and just like that's what I love about food. Is just like you can learn so much about a culture and about a person just through their food.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. You mentioned your mom. What's like the signature, like growing up, what was like the number one thing that she made, like your favorite dish that she made?
That's cool. Yeah. She's a big baker, so it was a lot of like sweets and like cookies, and they were always around. But needless to say, I was kind of a husky boy when I was a child.
I was too.
Yeah,
I was the fat kid.
yeah, which I didn't mind. It was like I mean, I didn't really think much of it. It was like these cookies are worth it. But she used to make this dish. It's like a Texas style dish, and it's called King Ranch chicken. And it probably came out of like maybe a Southern Living magazine or a Texas Monthly or something like that. But it's essentially like a lasagna, but it's made instead of like the pasta sheets, it's made with corn tortillas. So you layer them in between like a cream of mushroom soup, like rotel chili, pulled chicken, queso. It's just like this amazing Texas Mexican style infusion, and that was like my favorite dish as a kid. And so on my birthday, like what my mom would do is like, what dish do you want, or what kind of cake do you want for your birthday? And every year I'd be like, I want King Ranch chicken, dude. I want that German chocolate bake, like send it. That's what I want. So then I would probably say that was her dish to me.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. You said you've collected menus while dining in Europe at a young age. Was there a dish or restaurant from those travels that sparked your love for food in a deeper way?
That was my grandfather who did that. So the dietitian, yeah, he was the one who, he was cooking or dietitian out in Georgia, primarily near the Atlanta area, and he would go to like Europe, and he would collect these awesome menus and eat at these places like like the Ritz-Carlton, or places that were like, this is before like the chef was like this big, before there were like real chef run restaurants. Most of the talent was found inside of like big hotels at that time, and so he would collect these menus and he shared them with my grandmother. And I was like, she had like one or two, and she's like, oh yeah, this huge collection of menus and da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see them. She's like, oh no, I got rid of those years ago, honey. But here's a few. I'm like, well, why would you build me up on that? Just to tell me you had none. But I've seen some of the other things, and some of the menus that my mother had from their restaurant was called Swirly Top. It was this little soft serve ice cream burger joint, fried shrimp. I'm talking like the menus be like legit, like 10 cents, 25 cents.
This is in the U.S.?
This is in the U.S. This is in York, Spring Grove, Pennsylvania, which is in like a real small town in York County. And but they were doing those kind of things, and yeah, it was just so funny to see these like 25 cents for a basket of shrimp. Like,
Yeah.
that's like incredible, right?
Yeah. So your grandfather did the Europe stuff. Have you ever been to Europe and like experienced the culinary stuff out there?
I am not, man. I am not yet. No, it's been a lot of, but I've worked with a lot of chefs from when I was in New York. A lot of chefs from France, Australia, that have worked with some of the major league players up there.
But do you think, is there like in their culinary world, is there like a country that everyone just thinks about, like that produces the best chefs? Is it like France or Italy or?
Yeah,
Those are the only two that I think of.
yeah, that's a great question. I think with the way the world's more connected today, and how much food can be, produce can be flown around, and we can get any ingredient basically overnight.
Yeah.
There's been, I mean, there's some with the thing with like culture and people, like there's been chefs that have really stood out over time. In the early 90s and early 2000s, it was Ferran Adria from Spain, who was basically just set the pathway. He was essentially what Escoffier was of his time, like was putting everything in this system and getting everything, like the organization of it all. And he also broke the like just kind of broke the barrier of food instead of just always food being what it was. But he was working with like textures and different types of like airs and foams, and that's when that whole pearls, right, and caviars, and but not caviar made out of like peppers and pectins and things like that. That kind of broke the way. And then there's Rene Redzepi, who has been on the forefront, phenomenal out of out of Denmark. And I mean,
Is he around to? Is that
he's around today. Yeah, he's kind of like the next, or was the next big thing. Of course, there's chefs out of Grand Ashnitz, out of Chicago, and these guys doing some really just phenomenal stuff. But like I said, with the way the world is now, there's so much talent out there that I think you mentioned Italy and France. That's kind of what it was for the longest time. Like there was like American chefs were kind of not really sought out. Like anytime a new hotel would open in America, like maybe the Ritz or something like that, right? They would bring in these chefs from like Austria or Belgium or Germany or Italy, France, whatever. But now there's this lineage, right, that has produced American chefs that are doing wonderful things, and it's just kind of been this, this like just this stream of new chefs coming out and emerging. And now, like, there was a time when even when I was still cooking, you had to be in either, Chicago, LA, New York City, DC, if you really wanted, like Philadelphia, if you really wanted like real experience, like stuff that you were reading about or seeing in the magazine. But now we're having places like, I mean, look at Charleston the past few years, like some of the best chefs ever are coming out of there. And I mean, even Savannah, look at Jacksonville. I mean, Florida just got Michelin-starred recognition, I think this year or last year. So things are really heating up in the US,
Yeah, for sure. It's cool. What made you choose Le Cordon Bleu in Austin, and how did that experience prepare you for the career that you built?
Yeah. So I'd always been in the restaurant industry since the time I was like old enough to get a job. It was just like one of the things that you were always able to get. And after like being a busboy, I was like, that's for this is not it. You know what I mean? Like, and I'd always be in the kitchen, like, like sneaking food, or like we'd have one job, I'd have to like puree this salsa at this place called Papacitos in Texas. It's run by the Papas family that own like many different types of ideas that they do, concepts. And I remember like smelling the salsa. I was like, yo, and it has this like little seasoning bag that was like top secret, and I'd have to put it in there. And like, I mean, I like talking roasted tomatoes, jalapenos, and just like this, I'm talking like looks like a big jackhammer. That's how much we were blending at a time to fulfill this like order, to fill these recipes. And that's kind of what like, so when I finished high school, I was working front of the house, but I've always loved cooking, just the pay wasn't as good as it was as back of the house, right? And so my buddy hit me up and he was like, hey man, I'm going to culinary school, dude. And he was like one of my best friends. And he was like out in Austin, like I'd always been in the restaurant industry, and I was like, wanted to learn more about cooking. So I kind of wanted to wrap everything into one. I kind of wanted to start tying my front of the house experience now to the back of the house and kind of encompassing it all, so that eventually one day I could do what I'm doing now, like be able to, know how to serve and speak with guests, but also know how to cook food. And that's kind of what brought me out there. And I would say it prepared us pretty well. I will say that a culinary school that's kind of fast track, like the 1.5-year program, is you can get some out of it. I would say that it's probably in your best interest to have a more like a deeper knowledge of the kitchen before you go to like a fast track style culinary school, as opposed like the CIA, which is in a few locations now, the Culinary Institute of America, where they do like more like a 4-year program that's super intense, and they really kind of prepare their students for like bigger and better things.
So the Culinary Institute, that's more like in depth. The Cordon Bleu, is that, can you go there just without knowing anything, or are you supposed to like have worked in a restaurant, like kind of know some stuff?
Yeah, that's it. That's the question. And you can go there. I think you have to have like a year experience in restaurants, but it could be anything. And I think they just take some kids in. Because I remember, the first semester, kids are dropping like flies. They're like, what are we doing? Or like, this is not what we signed up for, or this, I don't know if I want to do.
So you get scholarships to go there, or do you just pay like out of pocket?
Yeah, it was like kind of like an out of pocket thing. I think it was more run like a business.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, getting kids hey, you set this loan up and we'll get you here, we'll get you into school. And it's kind of more of that thing. I will say that like it was, I mean, the original, like what Le Cordon Bleu is phenomenal, right? Like that was like the epitome of cooking for such a long time. And I think now, there's been, I mean, this was just like a section of it. You basically bought the name to use to get guessing. But the courses were cool. I mean, we got to learn a lot of stuff, but when it came to like butchery, it was like, we weren't really holding knives and like cutting whole animals. It was like someone giving a demonstration. But that was like the stuff that was cool to me. I was like, I want to do that. Like, I want to like hold this knife and, get on this pig and like, like learn those cuts. Right.
Yeah, that's cool. You worked your way through almost every entry level role in restaurants before stepping into the kitchen full time. What was the hardest lesson from those early grind years?
Yeah. Man, I have literally worked every position in the restaurant. And yeah, the hardest position are the lessons that I learned. I think just like your demeanor and like building a thick skin is something that is so necessary if you're going to work in a kitchen. Because, food is subjective, right? Like you could think like, oh, this is the best freaking dish I ever had. And Taylor over here might be like, this is the worst dish I've ever tasted in my life, right? So I think consistency, hard work, demeanor, your disposition, like those are just so important when you walk and being able to learn, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that goes with just in life in general. Like, there's a lot of life lesson values that you learn in a kitchen because it's a very brigade system, right? Even you have your chef, your exec, and then it just kind of falls down to sous and chef de cuisine, excuse me, and then, line cook and commis and all this whole thing. So you're seeing this rank and, like we were always like, if the chef isn't talking to us, we're doing good. Like if he's not down our throat or saying anything to us, things are good. But just this having thick skin, man, and realizing that in order to learn, you have to be broken a little bit. Like you have to like come in there. Like when I came from Florida, I thought I knew how to cook. And then I get to New York City and I'm like, oh man, I don't know anything. I mean, just their culture and food in general, right? It was so different than anything I had seen. I mean, Florida, it's like, like guys are, basically like having a cigarette and like, peppered pants with this and that on them and just roll out of
The chef's there. It's like almost like suit and tie in the kitchen.
It's 100%. It's like military. I mean, like if we so much as had like a stain on our apron, you got to get off the line and go change. Like there was no time for looking. It was almost military, like very militant style of learning. So that was like really hard for me the first year of being up there because it was like going from like playing t-ball to the major leagues like overnight. Like just like you think you know how to cook and then you get there and you're like, I don't know anything, dude. Like really.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But there's pros and cons to that. Like, the one chef might not think that that's necessary, but then another might say, well, if you can pay attention to like keeping your outfit clean, then those details will transmit to like what you're serving the customer on the dining floor. So those things go hand in hand. So it seems like really annoying, but I could see how that would benefit you, years down the road.
Yeah, and it's good to learn those fundamentals young. And you are 100% right. And it was all about it's not them being, well, they are kind of being floodheads, but it's them really instilling the culture into you. Like if you have dirty spoon water, like, because we have tasting spoons, so we're constantly changing that out, sweeping our station, wiping our line down. We only used to get like 4 or 5 towels for the night. It was about knowing what you had, keeping it tight, making sure that it was enough, and holding down your station, like manning your station. I mean, a guy broke it down to me, and it was really how I kind of look at the concept of cooking is, he's like, you're going into battle every single night. And then that guy's on his station holding down his, and this guy's on his station holding. Don't let each other down, right? Like it's like you're going into battle. I mean, if this is your gun, don't run out of ammo. Make sure you have your backups. Make sure you know where everything is when you need it. Your mise en place, which is a culture in itself. Mise en place is a term that the French have for everything in its place, mise en place, right? But it's so much more than just being like, oh, my tomatoes go here, my cucumbers are here. But it's about every single thing. And it became a lifestyle for me. I think it becomes a lifestyle for a lot of chefs where it almost made me OCD for like the longest time. Like I couldn't sleep if like my door wasn't closed or this light wasn't out. Like everything had to be, in its right place at the right time so that when things got busy, I didn't have to look for my spoon. It was always, if I got it out of here, it always went right back there every single time. And so that was the transition of coming from Florida, cooking in some of these restaurants, and then moving this to New York City and being like, wow, like there's so much in there, right? There's so much knowledge in there. If you're able to let the ego go and you're able to let yourself learn, you will walk out of there more than culinary school will ever teach you.
Yeah, that's super cool. Would you, for those that are listening that might want to do the culinary school route, do you think that that's like mandatory, or do you think, would you recommend that? Like if you have the means, or would you just say skip it and just go right to the source? Like if you want to be a butcher, go work for a butcher. If you want to be a, luxury restaurant chef, go work at a, high-end restaurant, get any job possible.
Yeah, that question comes up a lot. I've had a lot of people that are, just getting into cooking or finding that passion and wondering what's next for them. And of course, this is it's a trade, right? And so it's something that you can learn strictly hands-on. Like if you wanted to be like a dentist or sculptor or a carpenter, you could go straight to the source and learn these things hands-on. I wouldn't discredit culinary school by any means. I think if you are going to go, I would say to spend a few years in the restaurant, right? Like maybe work at like a high volume restaurant, like, something that's pumping out like, 400, 500 dinners a night. Mm-hmm. And then maybe work in something a little more refined and fine dining and kind of hone your skills there as well. But ultimately it comes down to what you want long-term from it, right? What do you want to be a Michelin-starred chef? Do you just want to own a catering business? Do you just want to be a private chef? Do you just want to make cupcakes for whatever, right? But I would highly suggest if you're going to go to culinary school, get some experience first, because when you get there, you're going to be pretty far ahead and you're going to have a good understanding of how the kitchen works and, just like how the gas grills work, and just you'll have more of your like of a foundation, and then culinary school will really build on that. I don't think you have to go there, but if you do decide to choose that route, it will get you into a lot of doors. It's a great way to network and almost like build your resume.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've met people that have just done School of Hard Knocks and just work in kitchens their whole way through and are phenomenal chefs. So it's really about what you're willing to learn, what you're willing to put out, and like how you pivot from there. But that's a great question.
Thank you. Let's see. We talked about New York. Okay, so after New York, you eventually came back to St. Augustine. You like kitchens like Island Grill and Prohibition Kitchen. What was the shift like going from the high-end New York City restaurants to running the kitchens closer to home? I know you kind of talked on it, but if there's anything.
Yeah. That was where I really learned myself in a lot. So you learn a lot about being a leader when you may not have the team of your dreams, right? And in New York, there's a different caliber of cook. Because the chefs will literally be like, you'll like see these stacks of paper. They're like, those are all resumes. So if you don't want to work here or you can't hang, then don't worry, I have plenty of the backup. Mm-hmm. Whereas in coming back to St. Augustine, it was kind of hard to even just keep cooks in the kitchen. At Prohibition Kitchen, I loved it. It was a really good learning opportunity for me. I was able to make that menu, design that menu, do all the R&D for that menu, and build a team and kind of instill culture that coming from New York that I had learned. But my biggest failure was where I learned the most. Like it was hard for me I was like riding this, like I just worked so hard to build my standards that I didn't ever want to lower my standards. Mm-hmm. But I was taking people who I was years ago and didn't really know the culture and trying to build them up to this standard. And that was where lied that was really the hardest part for me, was trying to get people to, it's just a different culture here, you know, like the pool is different,
100%.
you know, and like for some people, unfortunately, it's just a means to an end, or it's just like a side job for them, or if this doesn't work out, they'll just go to construction or whatever. It's just like, so getting someone to be passionate about food that you're passionate about when it has your name on it, or that guarantees your paycheck, getting them to feel that amount of love for something that you're doing is really hard to do. But there were a lot of good cooks there that really have gone on to do good things. And it was a lot for me to learn. It was a lot for me to wrestle with. And I mean, I wrestled with it for, you know, over a year before I hung my hat up and moved on. But it took me a long time to just try to find the patience of, hey, you're not in New York. This is not how it's going to be. And like I said, being like, well, I just worked so hard to build all these standards. Like, I don't want to just start compromising myself. So that's kind of where Homeboy Goods kind of led into. I found this good medium for me to be more of a peaceful person. I was kind of a tyrant in those days, and very like kind of unhappy, but really militant, because that's just how I had learned, and that's how I thought to get a message across. But I've learned there's just so much more in having a little bit of empathy for people, and realize. And I think a lot of chefs now are coming to this like conclusion, where they work for these like French chefs. I mean, in New York, man, I saw some crazy stuff, dude. I'm talking like they would throw food, break plates, scream, cuss. I mean, completely just like put you to the ground with like verbally and not only mentally, but like physically. You're working like 50, 60 hours, man. You're burnt out, dude, you know? So I think a lot of chefs have come now, at least in the past few years, of trying to find this happy medium. Like, all right, we're going to work our cooks like only 40 days or 40 hours a week, and we're going to work them 4 days straight, but then they'll have 3 days off. You know what I mean? Instead of like, oh, you get off on a Tuesday night, and then you have to be back in, you know, early in the morning, and you're working till Friday night, you know, like where there's just these like schedules that you're just, you know, you never, like mental health, like unfortunately in this community suffers a lot with like drug use, alcoholism, mental health issues. And it can be tough because, you know, it's high demand, you know, getting food out is high demand. And like I said earlier, it's subjective. Like when someone tells you something sucks or doesn't taste good, chefs take that for a lot, you know, like there's been chefs, unfortunately, man, that have ended their lives. Literally, they've ended their lives because they didn't receive a Michelin-starred, or they didn't get the star they thought they were going to get. And that's wild to me. So it's good to find peace now where you can still train and teach, but do it in a manner that's more leading instead of more like dominant, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Random, I just thought of this when you were talking, you know, like you'll go to some restaurants, and the waiter or the waitress, they'll try and memorize like, you know, 7 people's different orders. What are your thoughts on that?
Like without
Adding it down, they just remember it. And then, you know, they might remember it all, or they might mess it up. And it's like, why would you risk messing that up for, you know,
instead
for a mistake instead of writing it down? Yeah.
Yeah. What made you think of that?
I don't know. It's like the militant stuff. I was like, yeah, there's like I see some people do it, and then we'll come back, you know, did you do this? It's like, why should just write it down the first time?
Yeah, that's a cool question. I used to work with a guy that could do literally, well, I worked in restaurants where you weren't allowed to write down the order because it was deemed kind of like an order taker instead of like a server, right? Or instead of like it just looked, for them it was tagged. I mean, you could, but it was like more like, hey, let's try not to do that. But I worked with this guy, Jason. He was probably one of the most fun. It was when I was younger. He was like the most phenomenal server I had ever met in my entire life. Hardworking, accurate, polite. I mean, cared so much about his guests and he was like his hospitality, their experience was his first and foremost, which that's where we're kind of getting into now. And I work front of the house. I also work at Fish Camp part-time when I'm not doing Homeboy. And the modern day server, depending on the restaurant, is becoming more of like an order taker nowadays. It's like, just like some people don't, it's like, whereas before, like it was a job of hospitality. Like you actually really care about your guest experience and wanted to make sure that everything that happened while they were sitting at your table was like phenomenal, was flawless, right? And so when I see guests or when I see servers like who can do that without writing it down, that to me is like pretty cool,
I agree. Yeah,
right? I think
it's difficult.
because you're clearly listening. Like you have to be focused to take, 5 or 6 people's orders without writing anything down, right? And so
And on top of that, they memorize like the 10 specials under.
yeah, that might have funny words that no one knows, and like all these different explanations you have to give, and but God forbid they get it back to the chef and it's wrong, because I'll tell you what, that's if you ever want to make the chef mad, like bring in a bunch of stuff that doesn't need to be made or has to be remade, especially in the middle of a busy service, that can really put a wrench in there.
Yeah, that was my other question, because it's like I've seen it happen, and it's like that's an expensive, item that you just messed up, and then now they have to wait another half hour to get.
Right.
But yeah, we'll move on. Let's see. You worked 2 seasons on a farm. How did being hands-on with the source of food change the way you cook and think about sustainability?
And that is really what drove me to like peace. Like there was a time when, I would cook throughout St. Augustine, and I got in and out of restaurants, and especially after New York, and I felt like a lot of the stuff I was doing wasn't me appreciated, or that, I would get a restaurant going, I would do the R&D, I'd do set the kitchen up, I'd do the hiring, get the menu to where it needed to be, and then I'd get canned, or I'd get replaced for someone that they could pay cheaper an hour. And I'm like, dude, I would have just consulted with you, right? Like I would have just done it like that. So there was a time when I was like, you know what? I'm never cooking in another restaurant again. I'm only going to cook for myself. And that's what basically formed Homeboy Goods. But while I was on the farm, I had found this like just connection. And I know that sounds super like typical, but it was so real. Like to see where your food actually comes from. Like I'd only known it in like a kitchen standpoint, like when you eat a dish, like some people that dish is done in maybe a matter of like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, for like an entree, right? And no one really thinks about how much prep work went into that dish, right? Like how long did it take to get there? But when you get to the farm, you're like, gosh, like how long did it take just to get to the kitchen? I mean, the seasons of growing and picking through things that may not have been ideal. And, there's times when things don't grow, or if there's an issue, but just all the cleaning and in the process of getting food to grow from. I mean, it was with Bidwell's farm. I mean, that guy is a phenomenal.
Where is this?
This is off of Joe Ashton Road, out in like if you headed towards like State Road 16 out. But it's like a 3rd generation, maybe 4th generation farmer. Phenomenal. Like when it comes, like he is like, I mean, dude, the dude is so talented when it comes to farming. And he started his own his fathers had always done like potatoes and they were big with that, but he wanted to do like some really fun ingredients. He was growing like all these heirloom carrots, tomatoes, and radishes, and different types of lettuces that were like no one had seen in St. Augustine, right? And so that was so cool to be a part of that and to see it literally from seed to plate. I mean, that will just change your whole idea of waste. I think when people start really seeing how long it takes to put this food on the plate, I think I wish more people could see that, because a lot of it could get scraped into the trash can. You're like, wow, there's no shortage of food. There's just a problem with waste, but being out there, I mean, working amongst like, these wonderful like Mexican people that, had like just their story of coming here to the US, like, and how thankful and amazing, like just like they were so great. I've never met so much people that were like so grateful and had so much gratitude, and necessarily weren't living in the most richest or best conditions. Like they were the most humble people I've ever met in my entire life, and to see them like, just to see their like philosophy on life, and like out there in the sun and getting up early before the sun comes up, and getting things ready, getting everything prepared for that day, and just like the connections that you build through like sometimes just taking a couple steps down and like getting out of your own like kitchen and taking it back to the roots was so like necessary for me to grow, not only as a chef, but as a human.
That's good. So Thanks for sharing that. In 2020, you made the choice to never work in someone else's kitchen again. What was the breaking point there, and why did you learn about yourself in that moment? What did you learn about yourself in that moment?
Yeah, yeah, I kind of tapped on that a little bit with like I said, I had some jobs that I felt like they didn't really want a chef. It was more maybe in need of like a kitchen manager, someone that could just order, check the boxes, right? They didn't really need someone that was gonna do so much, and like I think chefs have like artistic ability, and like when you want to show that, like it's hard for you to suppress that and to keep it in, and really that's what you want to do. But when I made that decision, like it was COVID, man, is like things were shut down. Um, there wasn't like restaurants were closed, and I started to just see this different lifestyle. Like I wasn't able to go to work, and because kitchens were closed, and I was like, huh. So I had more time. Like I started to have more time with my kids and my family, and I was working out again, and I was in the sun again, and I was like, yo, this is really what like God's calling us to do, like is to be more connected to life. And like how much time was I spending away from my family and all the, when you're a chef, like you're cooking on all the major holidays. I think people want to go out to eat on Christmas and Thanksgivings and things like New Year's, right? And those are time away. And so I had this like epiphany, seriously, man, where I was like, how can I make this work? Like what can I do to still showcase a skill that I have, make a living off of it, and balance my mental health and my family life. And so that's where Homeboy kind of spurred it from. I was like, well, I'm going to start just putting it out there. And it still has a long way to go, and it's been growing. Every year has been better for me. And I have to thank Euphoria Vacations a lot. Like Danny has helped me a lot with like, I reached out to her during 2020. I was like, hey, I know you have these rental properties.
They have the nice rental properties too.
Man, she has done some phenomenal, and she is one of the most hardest working people that I know. I mean, she is on the grind constantly, and she has there's a lot for her filled, but I reached out to her and I was like, hey, what if we started offering like experiences like through.
That's what people want.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, think about it. Yeah. And
back in the days, it was like Chili's, IHOP, Outback. How people want like experiences. They want to go and they don't care about spending money as long as they're getting the experience.
It's funny because like for the longest time, I thought those were like nice restaurants. Like we never went to nice restaurants. Like it was always buffets if we were going out. And so like when first time I ate at like a Chili's or a Longhorn, I thought that was fine dining. So imagine going to New York City and you're like, whoa, what? You're like this. So it was like just mind blowing for me, like to see what real fine dining is. And people do want experiences, So that's what I offer. They come into these homes, and instead of them like going out to eat every night, like spend some time in the house, bring it to the table. You can do whatever you want. That's what's so cool about it. You don't have to like. You can sit back, you can be loud, you can talk, and so that's kind of the experience that I offer. It's just bringing the food to you.
Nice, yeah. We'll hire you soon. I want to do that for the family and friends, and
I would love that, Randy.
Let's see, we covered that already. You have 3 kids?
I do.
Me too. Yeah.
You have 2?
Yeah.
How did I know that? What's their ages?
Ava's gonna be 5 in February. Lucas just turned 3, and Isabella's 9 months.
Oh man, those are so beautiful. Yes, because
how old are your kids?
Well, my son will be 10 in about a week. And then my daughters, I have twins. They're 7. So it's, man, I know everyone always says like it goes by fast, but dude, that's the inspiration is like I wanted to be more involved instead of in the kitchen. And like you get it as a father, like I mean, you'll go through your phone and like you can scroll like a few times and they're babies again. You're like, dude, what just happened, right? Like, so it's amazing. I think being a father that's the thing I love the most. Like that's my calling. And I love mentoring. I love children, and I love helping them. And eventually, that's what I'd love to see Homeboy do is like get kids in that maybe need direction, or kids that don't have the best home life, or that don't have maybe a calling or haven't found what they're looking for. I would love for Homeboy to be so big one day that we get these kids in that need a little bit of extra love and guidance, and be able to like put them into like a kitchen setting where there is structure and there's guidance for them, and give them something that they can be proud of, like, producing food. And anytime someone can make something with their hands, like,
They're satisfying.
yeah, right. It's a skill. Like, I mean, for someone to build a home or trim or, a car, a mechanic, when you do something with your hands and you can take an idea out of your head and bring it to life, there's something in there. There's something natural about that. And for kids that, like I said, it might be needing some direction or, just some confidence, like, for them to be able to do that would give them so much hope.
That's cool. Uh, we talked about the children. So how do you find balance between the business and doing the family stuff as well?
Yeah, I'm sure as a father, you feel it, right? It's a constant struggle, right? It's constantly pouring into the cups, but you also want to be a good father and show that you can provide and that you're able to lead a good example of, like, of hard work and what integrity looks like and things like that. And then also having enough time for them. And, I'm getting calls and trying to do menus, like, which I'm sure anybody that is a business owner or a parent understands completely, like, just trying to find that work home balance. But I think a lot of it I do is just putting up boundaries at certain points, right? Like, there's some days when I'm just like, hey, I can't answer this call right now, or hey, I'll get back to them. Sometimes I've lost a business over it, or now they just found the chef. Or I'm like, well, that's what God wanted it to be. That's the way it just was supposed to pan out. But so it's hard to kind of define that. I mean, do you find that?
Yeah, similar. Yeah, I mean, it helps having like excellent team members to take the tedious tasks and whatnot. Like as you grow and you get busy, like responding to all those emails and stuff, you might want to maybe somebody can do that on the back end so you don't have to. But yeah, learning to say no and is really it's really liberating. Like learning to say no and just making time for yourself and your family. It's peaceful for sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. But that is also like money to me, because it's essentially our time is worth something.
Right. Yeah. Money is infinite. Time it's gonna expire at some point.
Amen, dude. Especially with your kids, especially when it goes by quick, especially these years when they're super young and they need as much as you can. So that you're right. I was just having that conversation today about saying no, and there's been times when I was so scared to do that, or was so scared to like name my price because I thought like, oh, I have to get the business, or what. So it's liberating to be able to like, what, I don't know if or if I'm going to be a good fit for that job, or I don't know if this is going to work out, or yeah, being able to say no, even if it means money, but if it brings you peace, right? Like if I know something's going to be like,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I might say it online, but yes, if something is going to be worth more than my time that is being paid for, yeah, like you said, it's different. You just say no, and there's power in that, and there's that's just has to go with those boundaries, right? You're putting up like, hey, when I get home at certain points, like sometimes my phone is off or I'm away from it. Like when I'm with my kids, sometimes that's just my time with them.
That's because you've talked about seeking Jesus, training, jujitsu, surfing, and gardening. How do some of these practices influence your creativity and decision making as a business owner?
Well, I would first and foremost say that as I've grown deeper in my faith and closer to Jesus and God, and is taking a weight off my shoulders, man. It is really just been everything I needed. I was a pretty, like I mentioned earlier, when I had kind of moved from New York back here, I was I was drinking a lot, to be completely honest with you, and kind of in a low, really angry person. I'd gone through a divorce, and I was just kind of at rock bottom. And it was just like, when I started saying, oh, I got this, because that's always been my chef's nature, is like, I can do this, I'll push through it, just get it done. And to have that weight lifted off me has been, man, everything I needed. And then with things like gardening, there's just, it's just peaceful, to watch. I just love to see something grow. I love to see things, like I said earlier, like when you make something with your hands, or you see something come from nothing into fruition, it's just like children, like, you see different stages of them, and you get to mentor and grow these things. And jiu-jitsu has been like, wow. I just think everyone should try it and get into it. There's nothing more, at least for me, like I love things that are primal. Like I think cooking over fire is very primal. Growing things in your hands there is very primal. That just brings us back to our roots. But as far as like tying jujitsu and Christ together, it has helped me to just remove this ego. Like, and you get whooped by like a 15-year-old, you're like, all right, you know, like, okay, cool. You know, like that I didn't see that coming, but good for you, man. Yeah.
You appreciate oxygen more.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when you're being choked out, but just the grappling and like that community and like, there's something about it. I mean, you're a Marine, like, you know, like that brotherhood that is formed, yeah, and forged through hard events, like through, and that's where I think men find, like, men need purpose, you know what I mean? And I think when you find purpose, especially through like something hard, like going through the Marines or boot camp, or, you know, the things you had to do, or grappling and sweating and fighting, but then you're like best friends at the end of it. It's like there's something in there, like that really deep in there. And
yeah, you're never perfect at it either. There's always room for improvement.
but you couldn't have said it more perfect. That's exactly right. And that was the ego, right? That was the whole learning that you can, there's so many things from jujitsu I can, and the kitchen I can apply in real life. And it's like, man, if you think you know it all, you really know nothing, you know, like the more open-minded you are and the more I just continue to have like this open white belt mentality of like, I'm not chasing the belt. I'm on a journey, you know, like the same as like, I'm just on this journey, you know. My coach Bill put it to me one day. He's like, just pretend like you're in Florida and you're driving to California. He's like, you're just barely made it out of the city right now, you know? And that's it, you know, just being open-minded, man. Like there's so much to learn. And when you're not chasing necessarily like the rank or oh, I'm going to be the chef, or I'm the black belt now, or whatever. Like you're on this ride and you're learning. That's where there's so much there, right? Because like when you get to the end, oh, you're the chef. So now what? Now what?
Yeah,
you just missed the whole time, right?
Yeah, the Michelin-starred is cool, but what was cooler is everything that got you there.
Right. That is the essence of it. You're 100% right. It's like, you know, like there was a podcast I watched today, and this guy just ran, and you know, he got the gold medal or whatever. No, it was a golf. He got the trophy, and it was like, well, and the reporter asked him, so now what? Now what are you gonna do? And he's like, well, it's cool. He's like, I'm just gonna go home to my wife and kids now, and you know, and he was talking about the journey there, like, you know, like training with his friends and practicing and, you know, building relationships all along that way until he reached this point, and then that's it, right? I mean, yeah, you're right, 100% right about that.
That's good stuff. Let's see here. With Homeboy Goods, what was the biggest challenge, like when you first started?
The biggest challenge for me was just kind of getting exposure, like trying to get my name out there. And
did you start it here in Augustine?
Yes, sir. Yeah, correct.
Okay. So exposure, and then how'd you find that? How'd you get that?
A lot was through Euphoria Vacations with Danny. She's been, like I said, very like helpful in getting me clients, right? So it was like she would say, hey, you want to make some wrap cards and leave them in our things, and when guests start, we'll be a preferred vendor for us. And then I've had Rob and Kay Oliver over at Endless Attention Marketing, who've been very helpful in putting me as a preferred vendor for certain things. And so it just comes, and you know, you and I both know, like, as you prove to yourself, and as you know, it's really nice for someone to be like referring, because for me, it's hard, right? Like, even referring someone for a job, it's like, oh man, I hope they hold up, right? So when you come through, like, that's like so important to me, is to make sure that I come through for my guests, right? And when you do that and you build rapport and you start to build that relationship, and they know, like, it's so important for me to know that not only my clients can count on me, but that the people who are referring me can count on me. And when they get a good report and they're like, yo, just a heads up, like, these guests checked out and they were so happy with your services, like, that's the biggest payoff for me. You know, that means more to me than like a tip or like a good service. That's like, oh, thank God. You know, it's like,
yeah, because they're gonna go talk about you.
Yeah, right.
When they get back to Portland, where they're from, they're gonna say, oh, this chef came over and cooked for our bachelor party, and it was great. Yeah.
And that's the idea. Is like, I want to leave people with an experience. Like, if you can't remember what you ate or what the experience that you had while you were there, it wasn't really an experience. Like, if you went out to eat at a Michelin-starred restaurant, you don't remember any of the food, but maybe you just remember the name, then was it really memorable, you know? So that's what it's been. So exposure was kind of tough at first. And then right now, as my business is growing, it's like trying to find that word balance life, and also like God, bookkeeping is a whole different bag. I'm so glad it's not this huge business just yet. I'm glad God is kind of given to me piece by piece so I can kind of master level one before I get to part two.
I got somebody here for you. Tyler Tebow and Clucky and Tebow. And yeah, they do our books. They're local.
Yeah, I just did a dinner for Kluki and his wife's birthday. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really good. I used to spend hours every month doing that shit. It's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
And they do it all and pay me a little fee and take care.
I'll reach out because I did just their wife's birthday party out. It's phenomenal people, dude. I'm talking like the nicest. They had about I think it was like 15, 16 guests. And dude, it was so cool. Like
So when you cook for these private dinners, do you just source everything? Like you go to Butcher and Bean and buy like 16 fillets or something?
Dude, I love Butcher and Bean. Grant is the man. His product is superior.
I'm trying to get him on the podcast.
You should, man.
I love their stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because I just feel like he's just brought something here that was just, I mean, there's been other butcher shops, but I feel like there's just something about Brent that makes him so special. Like, he loves talking meat. He loves talking like cooking. So I go in there and we'll BS for like, a while. And he's always turning me on to new good pieces of meat, right? So I'm a big ribeye guy or picanhas, right? I like those big, right? Like, let's go, right? And he was just turning me on to like flat irons the other day and like these and Trace Terrace Majors. And I'm like,
I never heard of that. That stuff's amazing.
Which one?
The Terrace Major?
Dude.
And it's so much cheaper than filet.
Yeah, and it eats just like a filet. Like, it's that tender. And he was like, just give it a shot. Give him a shot. But that's what it's like. And that's what it's all about. And it's like, that's the learning, right? Like, I could be like this arrogant chef. It's like, no, I only use what I know, right? But you have this butcher who's experienced in his background. And he's like, yo, check this out, dude. You're going to love it. And then when you try, you're like, why didn't I know about this like 5 years ago? But yeah, Brent is phenomenal, man. And it's so good to see St. Augustine. I mean, we have so many good chefs here. I mean, there's just so many chefs doing, especially guys that have traveled out, like, you should get one with Barry over at Lotus and like some of these other chefs that are just, bringing back this knowledge and these like memories, right, from bigger cities in New York, right, and bringing this knowledge back. And now they're passing that, like they're building their own lineages again, passing this on to the next generation of cooks. And from St. Augustine is on the rise, man. Like, it really is. I don't know if I answered that question, but
I think you did. Yeah. The challenge. That's good stuff. For let's see here. For someone listening who feels stuck in their job but wants to follow their passion like you did, what's one piece of advice you'd give to them?
Just be consistent. You got to keep hacking away. It's that small axe, big tree mentality. Eventually that tree will fall, but you got to keep chipping away at it. And there's been, Jonathan, there many times when I wanted to give up, or I thought, hey man, especially in the first few years, and it was like a few dinners a year, and then it was like, oh man, is this really worth it? Or hey man, it's like you start to get all the work that you have to do that comes with it. Like, there's so much more. You think, oh, if I work for myself, it's going to be super easy, or I'm going to be able to just do whatever I want. But there's more responsibility. And like at certain restaurants, when you're done, you just wipe your hands, you go home. That's it. It ain't my problem anymore. But when you own your own business, as you know, that there's work after the clock, but you're also in charge. You also get the freedom to be able to dictate your money eventually, right? And how you want to see things, right? Like, there's a way that I want to present food. There's a way that I want service to go, and I can do that now on my terms. So anyone that's starting out, and I just be consistent, stay vigilant, and in focus, and if you can do those things and keep at it, eventually the fruits of your labor will begin to show,
That's good.
Well, being someone that's trustworthy, right? Like, you have to be trustworthy.
Yeah. Consistency, persistence, integrity, for sure.
Absolutely.
What's like your favorite thing to make?
My favorite thing to make, man, I've been so stuck on like grilling over charcoal. Like I just love it. Like a whole fish. Like, I'll get some like snappers or something and like just put like some type of like chili spread or like rub on them and just throw them on the grill and like do something fun like that. I have a good buddy now. He's from Brazil and he is the picanha master, man. Like, We'll invite you over with us one day, and we'll just like throw down on the grill. Like seriously, I'm not even dead serious.
Yeah, I'm done. I just made picanha in my Weber gas grill, and that shit was better. It was as good, if not better, than like Fogo de Chao.
Really?
Yeah, I got it from Butcher.
Well,
There's a fresh. I just did salt, pepper. I think I did garlic powder, and that was it. It took a while to cook, but
let me ask you this: did you do it like Brazilian way, where they cut it and then they skewer it, or did you just cook the whole?
no, I cooked the whole thing little on the grill, and then when I cut it, I stood it upright and then sliced it. But yeah, it didn't how they slice it. Yeah.
Yes, no, that's where it's at, man. So it's so like that's again like that's culture. You're like learning all these different cultures and being a part of it. Like his mother brings up these. There's like a Brazilian store down in South Florida where they're from, and she hits it up and bro. So he's always got picanha, and then Brent was someone who really and so and I knew this from like being a chef, but sometimes like budget may not allow it. But if you can get the prime meats, man, it is a huge difference. Like I can't express that enough. Like he brought up, they would just get regular picanha and they would bring it up like, choice or select, and he would get prime. He was like, I just want to see if there's a difference. He's like, it costs you like $10 more at the bottom line, And dude, game changer, man. Yeah. Game changer. That's nice that you like to cook. It's I always thought it was so fun when I meet people that don't cook professionally that love cooking. I'm like, dude.
I cook a lot, yeah. I made lomo saltado last night, the Peruvian dish. You had that?
Yeah, lomo is it a tenderloin, like a pork tenderloin or something like that?
No, it's like I use top sirloin.
Okay.
So you can use filet, top sirloin. That's sirloin or filet is probably the best cut.
Well, shoot, man. I mean, maybe come over to your house and eat, man. It's not like he's throwing it down, but yeah, that's literally.
I'll show you a picture when we're done. It's good. It's Peruvian. Have you ever had Peruvian food?
I had that. Well, I've had advanced Peruvian food over at Llama with Marcel, and he's doing some cool stuff over there.
Yeah, that's good too. But like there's another Peruvian place in St. Augustine. I think it's called Brazos. It's by the Walmart near the south, kind of like Mushroom Bean. Yeah, that place is pretty good.
Okay, good.
There's not too many selections in St. Augustine, but like,
wait, is it right? Is it the whole the chicken place? I love that spot. They do like the whole chickens, and yeah, it's right next to Mi Carnal.
Yeah,
the place is banned.
Yeah, that's probably Pollo a Brasa. So like the rotisserie chicken, and they have a bunch of different like ceviche.
Ceviche was phenomenal.
Peruvian ceviche is where it's way better than Mexican ceviche.
I would agree. I love it. I think Mexicans own it when it comes to aguachiles. But when it comes to ceviche, man, the Peruvians have it a lot, dude. Yeah, I ate there. I've had a lot of their, even their, I love the, like the plant or the yuca, that they use. I love. We tried so much different stuff, and I was like, but it's a little more. It's such a different experience than llama.
Yeah.
But I totally love like that abuela style cooking, like this when it's like just like a little mom and pop shop that is like a little hole in the wall, and you're like totally unexpected. And you're like, yo. Well, that's what's up, man.